Hey stranger. So, I have been hearing a lot about these GC2B binders. Personally, I have been pretty loyal to Underworks binders since I started binding because I heard that they were the only brand that was safe and reliable. But I've been hearing a lot about GC2B binders lately and saying that they're great, that they're more comfortable than Underworks and all these things. So I decided that I was going to buy one because I can't actually bind comfortably anymore because I have chronic back pain and some other health issues that prevent me from binding on a regular basis. I figured that I would give the GC2B binder a try to see if it would be the solution to me being able to bind comfortably, especially in the summer. So basically, the purpose of this video is I'm going to be doing a comparative review, reviewing the Underworks Tri-Top medium-sized white binder to the GC2B medium-sized white binder. So to start off, this is what I look like when I'm not binding, which is also why I don't bind most of the time in the winter or when it's not necessary unless it's too hot out. It's only really crucial for me to bind in the summer if I have to wear t-shirts or tank tops because I'm really a big fan of wearing tank tops. So I'm fairly small chested. I have probably a large A, small B cup as far as my chest, and this is me wearing a t-shirt. I got this t-shirt from Gender Flux, which is a clothing company run by Elliot Alexander, who's an amazing gender fluid model and designer. And this is what I look like just wearing a sports bra. From the side, again, I have a fairly small chest, so possibly this review may not be terribly helpful for those of you that have larger chests. Yeah, so just to give a base of like what we're working with, this is what I look like in a sports bra. Now, we're going to start off with the Underworks medium tri-top binder. Okay, so if the lighting will adjust for me, this is me wearing an Underworks tri-top binder. As you can see, I'm quite flat. I usually bind up to, create more of like a look of like pecs or something. And so it's quite flattening. Complaints about this binder are that the material is very hard and very harsh on the skin. It's not a soft fabric at all. It's not absorbent, so if you are sweating, there is going to be sweat dripping down your chest, not being absorbed by the fabric at all. I find that this binder makes me sweat a lot if I try to do anything in it. And so that's a bit of a con. It is very effective. I've owned probably 4 of these in various colors. My first binder was a used Underworks, and then I bought a medium tank top. I didn't like the tank top, so I just have been buying white medium tri-tops ever since. And so yeah, there's that. The medium Underworks tri-top binder. And so we're going to do a comparison to the GC2B binder. So this is the GC2B medium-sized binder. It's also quite flattening from the front. I will say a couple things about this binder. One is that it is much more difficult to get on, like to pull down over your head. It's quite the battle. As you'll see in a picture that I'll probably post here, the GC2B binder of the same size is much smaller than the Underworks binder of the same size. I think that might be because it's slightly more elasticy. I feel like it's made of more of like a spandex material than the Underworks binder. And I know that the sizing chart for Underworks and GC2B is not translatable, so I did remeasure myself when I was buying a GC2B to make sure that I was getting the same size. I will say that the front panel of the GC2B binder, as you can see, if I can get the lighting to adjust for me. I'm so pale, like you have no idea how pale I am in real life. It's really difficult to shoot anything with a camera because the camera just thinks I'm just a sheet of paper. Anyway, the back panel, as you can see, is quite stretchy. Front panel, nothing. Like there's no stretch or flexibility or anything in the front panel. And so I think that's kind of like what they were going for the compression. They were going for more of a, like just like a flat, hard panel to compress the chest. Criticism, the armpit holes are very low, which I can see would be good for some people because the Underworks armholes are very high, and they can tend to like cut into your skin a little bit. But these ones are very low, and I would almost say too low. If I try to bind up, which is what I usually do, I get this like side boob thing happening, which is not cool. It makes me feel a little bit like exposed. And you can see that like if I turn there, like there's like some side boobage happening, which I don't really appreciate. I will say once you get it on, the material itself is more comfortable than the Underworks binder. It would probably do a better job at absorbing sweat. It does have these kind of weird seams at the sides, which are a little bit uncomfortable, especially since I had shoulder surgery, so I'm like numb on one side, or like kind of numb, like I have nerve damage on the one side, and so having it kind of like scrape against that spot is like a little bit, like I haven't actually worn this out of the house. I probably should have done that before I did the review, but I haven't. But so it's not like an issue right now, but I just kind of like, I'm predicting that over time, like that would be a little bit uncomfortable for me. It also has a seam across the back, which I was kind of surprised by, but that doesn't really bother me. Just for like a texture comparison, I'll kind of like show you what the different fabrics sound like. Like if I do this, you like can't hear that. Like it's very smooth, almost like swimsuit fabric, almost, if that makes any sense. Whereas with the Underworks binder, it's like can you hear that? Like it's really rough, and it's multiple layers of this kind of abrasive mesh material. So fabric of the GC2B is much more comfortable. As far as like breathing in it and moving around in it, I'd say it's about the same as the Underworks binder. I don't think it's particularly more, movable, or like, I don't know. I don't think it's particularly more flexible or anything than the Underworks binder, because it has like the hard front panel. So as far as wearing a t-shirt, this is me wearing a t-shirt with the GC2B binder, quite flat. Again, there's a little bit of like pillowing like right here, which like even if I'm not binding up, like I guess I could try pulling it down. Yeah, I guess that works better. But I don't like that I can't bind up in this. That makes me kind of uncomfortable. I know that for people with larger chests that might not be an issue, but personally that's something that I'm much more comfortable doing, like having it higher than having it lower. And so I don't like that you get that kind of pillowy effect when you do that, because it looks kind of unnatural. But overall, very flat and pretty decent binding effect. And again, these are just my reviews as someone who has a very small chest, because I have heard accounts from people who have larger chests that GC2B worked for them when Underworks didn't, or the other way around. So what works for people with smaller chests might not work for people with larger chests, or what works for people with larger chests might not work for people with smaller chests. And for the comparison, this is me wearing my Underworks binder in a t-shirt. It's like, I think you're always going to have a little bit of that underarm stuff, but not nearly as bad as the GC2B is for the underarm bulging. And again, the thing I like about Underworks is that I can bind upwards, so my chest looks more like pecs and less lumpy and weird. So yeah, very flat binding. My necklaces might be giving this a bit of a weird appearance, but very flat on both sides, A+ binding. Now that I have put this back on after trying on the GC2B, I am noticing that it is significantly less comfortable in the armpits, and it actually is slightly more restrictive as far as breathing and things like that. But the GC2B, it's like the Underworks is too high in the armpits, but the GC2B is too low in the armpits, so it's like you're either getting chafing or you're getting like boob bulge. So I think binding companies kind of need to even that out as far as how they deal with the armholes. I think that Underworks does bind me slightly flatter than GC2B does, because it looks like more uniform. It looks less lumpy or anything like that. You can see actually my stomach sticks out like way farther than my chest. But I think the Underworks binder for me gives a more like uniform flatness than the GC2B does. So in summary, I don't think that the GC2B or the Underworks are objectively better than one another. I think that both have pros and cons, and so I'm just going to weigh the pros and cons in summary. So pros of the GC2B binder, it's more comfortable, it's more breathable, better sweat absorption, and easier to breathe in. It's less restrictive. Just on the whole, I would say it's the more comfortable binder. Cons, I don't like the armholes, and I've heard other people complain about that too. So they have kind of like the chest window at the side. Also, it's harder to get on and take off, and it has weird seams at the side, which is not necessarily a con. Like, it might not bother you, but it's a potential con that it has seams going over the chest. Pros and cons of the Underworks binder. Pros are very flat, very uniform flatness, easier to get on, no like chest bulging or anything like that under the arms. So it's a very strong, very flattening binder. Cons are it's less breathable and less sweat absorbent, so you will get quite sweaty and uncomfortable in it, as I have many times. It does kind of cut under the armpits a little bit. The material is way harsher, and it's more restrictive as far as just comfort. It's overall less comfortable, but I would say it gives a firmer, more uniform binding experience. So both have pros and cons. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, because to be honest, like, even if in my experience the Underworks binder binds more flatly, I have chronic pain and I have other health issues to do with my ability to bind, so I'm probably going to stick with the GC2B personally, just because it's more comfortable and it's less compression on my chest and back. I find the Underworks binder puts a lot of weight on my shoulders, and I had to get my collarbone reconstructed, so I have a plate in there. So wearing my Underworks binder and having it kind of like pull down on my shoulder is very uncomfortable. So for me personally, and all the circumstances and issues that I have, I'm probably going to stick with the GC2B, but I'm just posting this video as an information resource and as a review, so basically you can make your own choice as to which binder you would prefer. So leave your opinions in the comments if you've tried either of these binders and what you thought of them, or if you have any questions about either of these binders and how they match up. And yeah, peace out.